right, you guys, it's Tuesday night. It's time for Beyond 2D.
Let's go.
I am Jessica D, human being, and this is my co-host.
I'm Farron D, human being.
There it is. There it is. You know what I thought I was thinking about this before, it would have been a really tempting idea is to just not even be on screen, like just like a black square and that's it.
Why got to be a black square though?
I don't know why it got to be a black square.
Why got to be a black square? Out of all the color squares, you could pick.
It could be a purple square.
Thank you.
It's whatever color square you want, honey.
The color purple square.
Oh, see, now we have to go there too. Now we're going to go there. Okay. Welcome to Beyond 2D, everybody. We have been diving down the rabbit hole since last episode. I don't know what we were thinking. I tried to blame it on Farron before the show that this was his idea, but I think it was a joint effort, honestly.
It was definitely a joint effort. So here we are.
It was a joint effort. So we tackled on October 14th labels and belonging and talking about peeling off the labels. And that was setting the stage for all these other weeks that we have left to cover of season 3 of Beyond 2D. Tonight, tell the people what we're talking about, Farron.
All right. So tonight, as you know, we are talking about, this is, about race and culture. But I want to set the stage for this about racism. If you want to know if somebody's really racist, ask them, why are you racist? And if they give you an answer, I'm here to tell you that if they give you a reason why they're racist, if you have enough conversation with that person, if you ask more questions, if ask them why you're racist and where it came from, they will discover that they're racist is not their own influence, right? But if you ask a person if they're racist and they say, I'm racist because I'm racist, you leave that person alone because they gave you no reason, right? So I'm a firm believer that if we have conversations enough with people who claim that they are racist and you ask them why they're racist and they give you any reason, one reason is enough, that you can literally sit there and have a conversation with them to the point where they'll realize that, you know what, that influence is not my own. Maybe I'm not racist. And that could be the difference in communication with us as people, as human beings, right? But we're so quick to react and to respond to people when they say that they're racist and things like that. Now, you might be prejudiced, but 10 to 1, you're not racist. And I truly believe that racism that you've experienced, that you think that you feel, is not your own influence. That maybe somebody in your family or somebody who you trusted or you loved or looked up to as a child, they put that influence on you. And now that's not who you are. And now you're pretending that you're racist, but you don't even know how to get out of it. So tonight we're going to talk about our race. We're talking about race, culture. I mean, we're going 3D tonight.
We are going 3D, and that's what we need to talk about. That. Thank you for that opening word, by the way, setting the stage.
You got it.
Setting the stage. And I was getting prepared over here behind the scenes as well, because I love my definitions.
Oh, let's get them. What are they today?
We're gonna dive into those in just a minute, but I want to go ahead and just get 3D before we get into the conversation. All right.
Yes.
We have a special guest this evening, you guys, and I love the symbolism of things. I love that we are all different races here tonight. I love that we're from different parts of the United States. I love that our ancestors are from completely different parts of the world. Yes. I love the whole melting pot we have here this evening. So all of that being said, our special guest this evening is a human who claims to have more stories than Reader's Digest.
Oh my
if you
God.
know, you know. And when she's not sharing stories, she helps other humans turn life's hiccups into masterpieces. So without further ado, take a peek at our community, and we're going to be back with Sang D, human being.
Ooh, let's go.
we like to say here tonight is, dang, it's Sang. There she is. Welcome. So we're going. We did not plan for this to happen. It was so funny because I actually did not know Sang's last name, and so I was like, "It's D. What?" Now we got 3D. It was meant to be. It was meant to be.
Ooh, yes.
I love it. I love it. How ready are you for tonight's conversation, Sang?
As ready as I'm gonna be.
That's what I've had to tell myself.
Let's get it.
It's a great topic to talk about. So I'm excited to talk about it with the other two Ds.
Yes. Yes.
We are ready.
It's gonna be amazing. By the way, we need to say hello tonight. Miss Brittany is out in the audience. Hello, Miss Brittany. Happy Tuesday to you. We are Hollywood Squares, but with sparkles. That's what it is.
How did I
Ollie
get back in the
D.
middle? How did I get
Ollie
back in the
D
middle?
is in the building.
Ollie, what's happening? Power to the people, man.
Do you want me to move you for
No,
on?
I'm good. I'm good.
No, we're keeping the cookie. Sorry.
They're not our sponsor tonight.
Wow.
That's too bad. It's their loss. It's their loss, really.
For real.
But Ollie D's in the building. Any other D's here? We just went 4D. We just went
4D. What's up? What's up?
There it is. Any other D's? Let us know if you're watching tonight and where you're joining us from in the world, and let us know if you are ready to have this conversation, because one of the things that I have been discovering as we've been preparing for these particular shows is that a lot of times there's simply not a willingness to have the conversation with people. That people, I think, are scared. There's a lot of people that feel like they have to walk on eggshells where these conversations are concerned. And we are this is a non-eggshell show tonight. Okay. Yeah. I want everybody to be free to share their thoughts in the comments. And yeah, thank you, Brittany. Thank you, Brittany, for that. I can't focus.
Yeah.
F is for focus. Okay. And so if you're willing to have the conversation with us tonight, I would love. What is this? Another D?
Who's that?
5D.
I know who the D is, but I can't tell you.
Uh-oh. All right. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it tonight. I know Farron was talking about racism before you came on, saying, do you have any thoughts about what Farron was sharing about asking someone if they're racist, and that will give you a clue as to where they're actually at?
Yeah, it's very interesting because growing up in Texas, in small little town of Texas, where my family is still the only Asians in that little family, in that little town, right, is I saw it in the most intricate way as being an only Asian in a town full of Caucasians and any other person other than myself, right? Other than my family. And so it's fascinating as I grew up to witness it in different ways, because at some point I wasn't accepted into my own Asian group, right? I wasn't accepted into my Caucasian group. I wasn't accepted into my Black group, right? It was, I was not just, it was like, where do I go?
Yeah.
Where do I join? Because there was these, like, I think a couple weeks ago when you two were talking about labels, there's this automatic label that got placed on me, right? It's automatic. And it had nothing really to do, even thinking about what my parents growing up, because my dad is Vietnamese, my mom was Caucasian, she passed. But my mom was like the one who was like, I love everybody, right? But it was my dad who was like, we don't like people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Right. And to even get to that point where I'm having these conversations, because I wanted to have open conversations about racism with my children, with my own experiences. I can tell, again, more stories. I've done experiments with my own resume just to see what would happen. You know, I've done a lot of different things. And being able to sit down with someone and ask them that, to get to the root of, are you really racist? or is it something you just did because grandpa said we're doing this?
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation. And because I think, I don't know how everybody else's upbringing was, but we were, and I see this a lot now where people were kind of grew up to be told you don't talk about politics, religion, you just don't talk about certain things. And so you certainly would never like ask your grandpa, are, are you racist? Because that wouldn't have turned out well. And I will tell you guys a super quick story. So, my brother, actually, when he was in middle school here in Connecticut, and this was in a newspaper and everything else, you can go verify my story. But my brother didn't like, he was friends with all kinds of people, all
Mhm.
kinds of people. And one of his best friends growing up was a little black girl, and they were besties. They were like, I mean, just inseparable. And a new librarian came into the class, or into the school, and my brother started to notice a pattern that he was not calling on certain types of students. And my brother was a little bit of a troublemaker. I mean, and just in the way of like, he didn't have as much of a filter as I had. But he raised his hand in the middle of class and asked, "Why are you not calling on my black friends here?" And the teacher didn't like it, obviously, as you might guess. But he ended up, my brother went on and said, "Why are you racist? Ask this question that Farron's talking about." And the teacher slapped my brother
Oh,
in
wow.
front of the class, slapped him, and got 2 weeks off from work. And that was pretty much it. And so I can see, like, just from that story alone, how I think my own experience has taught me through things like that. Like, you don't talk about it. You don't ask questions. You just let people be who they are. And so as we're talking about these things, saying what has been, because I know you mentioned your cultural background, like how important has it been for you to have those labels? Have they been important to you at all, or have you been trying to like shed those kind of things?
Well, I will say I took my labels as an Asian. I mean, I've never put anything else on a box, right?
Mm,
Like when people say, "Oh, well, what do you put?" Like, because one, I can tell you right now, no one has ever come up to me and said, "You're white,"
mm,
right? It's always, "What are you? What is this?" And so I just go, "I'm a human being." I've said that before, right?
yeah.
And I've said, "I'm a lady." Just these things like, and it's like, it's so uncomfortable when people would ask those types of questions because they're trying to ask a question, but they don't even know how to ask the question properly or
Mm,
in a way that it does not come off a certain way. So
right.
I just own the fact. I mean, do I have a flat face? Yes. Do I am very Asian? Yes. Am I the only Asian looking one out of all my siblings? Yes. And so it was, what am I going to do? Run away from my face? you
Yeah.
know? And so for me, it became, this is who I am physically, period. And the other labels that came along were simply because of things that I did. I was a single mom. And for me, it was about taking those labels and titles that either I gave myself or that society gave me to show other people who are Asians, who are single moms, who are raising biracial children, who
Mm,
are doing these things that you can be your label, but you don't have to be what society says your label is.
mm,
It's to define who you
right.
are.
Right.
Right. And I remember, I think I've shared this story a few times, is sitting in the welfare office when I was pregnant with my son. And when you look at the papers say single moms are never going to make it out alive.
Mm,
And it's like, I did not want to be that person. I wanted to be the smaller percentage that does make it out, that does get off of welfare. And when I tell you it's hard because society doesn't make it easy.
Right.
Society adds a lot of stereotypes. I don't love math. Just this automatic thing where people are like, oh, you're Asian, you look like math. And it's like, no, actually, I'm a writer. I like words, right? Math is too restrictive is what I say. Yeah. But just taking those, and you either define them how you get to define them, you know? And I have opened up the conversation even to my children because they're mixed, right? They're Black, Vietnamese, white, and it's very challenging for them in this world as well, right? And so just being able to own who you are as a person, as a human being, is what I've always talked about. People can say whatever they want to say. People can give you a label or whatever. Do you believe the label? Do you believe what they're saying to you? Right. Because that's where it comes into. Is it a fact that I'm Asian? Yes. Right. Is it a fact that I'm a single mom? Yes. So what are the facts? What definition of whatever you've given me have you defined me by? Right. And that's where for me, that's where it becomes an ick.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because even as we use different labels for different races, what those labels mean is different for everybody. It's no different than any other of the words that we explore here on this show. And we talk about, okay, trust. What does trust mean to you? Communication. What does communication mean to you? If I say, like you were joking about the stereotype of Asians liking math, some people believe that to be true and other people don't. There's just so right. What are those things that we are tying to those labels? Farron's in the green room, everybody. So you just give me a some. Okay, Farron's ready to come back in the ring.
What I had to say? No, I'm just kidding.
That's it. I'm trying to get him back on here, guys. Hang on.
It's okay, Farron.
It is being. There we go. We've okay, now Sang's in the middle.
Right where she belongs.
There it is.
She is right where she belongs.
I wanted to quickly, because Farron went right into it in the beginning talking about racism. I wanted to, you also brought up another word, prejudice. So I wanted to define those two words really quickly because I think that would be fun. Yes. Okay. So
why not?
So which one do you want me to start with, prejudice or racism?
Do prejudice first so people can understand.
All right.
See what
prejudice.
That one is for them.
An unfavorable opinion or feeling formed beforehand without knowledge, thought, or reason. Prejudice. An unfavorable opinion or feeling formed beforehand without knowledge, thought, or reason. All right. So that's the first part. Do you want me to do the other one? And then we. Okay.
Yeah.
Racism, a belief or doctrine that inherent differences among the various human racial groups determine cultural or individual achievement, usually involving the idea that one's own race is superior and has the right to dominate others, or that particular racial group is inferior to the others. So that's interesting to me right there, because even people that I have thought about in my own life and people would I know put the label on them as being racist. I feel like from these definitions that they are more prejudiced than than racist. So that's the thing that I find interesting right now.
Sang, I want to say to you, I appreciate. I was, in the green room listening still, but I didn't know. My youngest daughter is Filipino and Black, and I didn't know that there was even a such thing as an identity crisis for a person that's mixed race until she was 12, and she wanted to complete her life because she couldn't figure out who to fit in at the
Mm-hmm.
school she was at because it's predominantly Hispanic here,
Mm-hmm.
and so she's not black. And so she's trying to, and so she chose the Hispanic girl community. She had beautiful curly hair. She asked to straighten her hair one day, and we were like, "It's fine, go ahead, straighten it." She's a girl. No idea that she was actually trying to fit into this group of girls. And then when she did all that, they still teased her.
Yes.
And then by the time I got wind of it, she wanted to complete her life, and it was just insane.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for sharing that. So I really appreciate that.
Yes, you're welcome. I do remember. I mean, it was, and not to mention, not only, I mean, and again, I will tell you the obvious. The obvious is, yes, I look Asian. Yes, I have a flat face. If I turn sideways, it's going to look like that. Because I remember doing silhouettes. So it's kind of funny that we were talking about that. But when you did silhouettes in school, where they did the projector and your face was on the wall, and everybody had this round face with this nose that went out here, and mine was like, eh. Kids were so mean.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Not to mention, I had this scar on my face from getting like 16 stitches when I was 3. So not only did I have this face, I had these scars on my face.
Wow.
And it just, and there was nobody like me, like no one.
Yeah.
Right. So I do feel that for your daughter, because I tried to do the same thing when I was 15.
Yeah.
Right. Because what was I going to do? And so it's very challenging.
Yeah. And we talk from Beyond 2D, shouts out to the mentors that I've had in my life. That sense of belonging is so important, and we don't realize a lot of the things we deal with as human beings comes from that space of wanting to belong and to be accepted and to be liked and to be all those things that we feel like it's external to us, until you grow up and realize, oh shoot, I got to get that from within myself first. And then you battle with all the stuff that you grew up with. You got evidence, you got proof, you got body sensations and feelings. And it's like, no, I know I'm racist because of how I feel. And it's like, man, if we just had an opportunity to just listen and share with one another, we could actually realize where all this stuff is coming from. So that's why we're here today with this.
Thank you.
Laureen, welcome. By the way, Laureen's out in the audience, and she asked for the source of the definitions, and I responded to her, dictionary.com. It's my go-to. I go to dictionary.com, thesaurus.com. Those are my homeboys, okay?
That's what we use. That was what we use here.
The other D.
The other D. That we're in 6D now. Look how many Ds we got going on. So I guess we could go down some thoughts or hear questions about our individual experiences, but I wanted to quickly, what you guys were talking about sort of an identity crisis. Do you feel like, from your perspective, that only certain races or certain types of people would go through that sort of identity crisis?
I don't think anybody escapes it, to be honest. I think every human being, if we told the truth, deals with some type of identity crisis to belong. Even me being black, now I'm light skinned, so I'm in style. I gotta wait till Farron is in style. So it's like all these different things that we deal with that seems to be funny, but we don't know what that person's dealing with emotionally around their own. When I look in the mirror and I look at myself, it's like, I don't like myself, and then you're gonna talk to me about myself that I don't like about myself, then we got a problem. So I really don't think anybody escapes it.
No. And I'll say for myself, I had my youngest at 19. So I was raising kids while learning life. So what I've learned in the last 5 years, my youngest graduated in 2019. I flew the coop. And for the last 5 years, it's about, who am I without my children? Who am I? And not without them, but who am I where my job isn't defining me, which has never defined me, but who am I outside of that? I don't even know what I like to do for fun right now. Right. And some of the work that I do, I have clients who have been in jobs for 25, 30 years. They lose their job. They don't even know what they're supposed to do now. So Absolutely. It does. I don't think no one is escaping identity crisis
Yeah.
at some point. My own children who are 28 and 24 kind of go through that same thing, trying to find their way in life. Where do I fit in? Because we're not in high school. They're not in high school anymore.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then they're going into real life, but then these adults out here are not very kind sometimes.
Yeah.
You know? And then
Yeah.
and then something I've learned with my own children is that I survived life.
Mm-hmm.
And they're learning things right now that people will sometimes say, and I get defensive. I'm a mom, I'm going to get defensive. They say, well, that's common sense. And I
Oh,
grind my gears when they say that, because I'm like, common sense. And then I go, no, it's not common sense, because I knew it, because I had to screw it up 1,900 times before I got it right.
yes.
I'm trying to show them how to screw up maybe 5.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
You know? And so, yeah, so just being able, and I think for me, being that person, that being that voice, being that person that says, you can be whoever you are. You may not fit in with that circle or that circle or that circle, but
Yeah.
knowing who you are as a person, who are you as a human being? What do you believe in? What are your values?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that speaks in everything that you do.
Yes.
Right.
And it's going to come out in your behavior as well, right? The real deep ones, though, the real deep ones is what comes out of our mouth and out of our character and our personality. And if it's fractured, you know, and I like how you brought up common sense. There's no such thing as
Sense
common
is
sense.
not common.
It is not common, and this is why the cultural part of this conversation is important, because
Yeah.
we all grow up in different backgrounds, and we could have the same experience, but label it, describe it in a different word or a different context. But yeah, it's the same experience, but I may not call it what you call it in your home. So it's not really common. I'm with you saying, I when I hear that, it's like, oh my goodness. Like there's no such thing as, but people talk and describe life as such, but there's no such thing as common sense. It is not common sense. It may be another word, but common sense is not it. And that separates us, right?
Yeah.
It immediately separates us when I use that description. Now you're a other, and you don't know, you can't imagine what I'm going through, or you should know better, because that's, how come you didn't learn that? That's well, you know what? Maybe my culture didn't do that in that
Correct.
way, or handle it that way.
I think
Jessica?
that's one thing that we've really discovered on this show, is just how many words and phrases are just used willy-nilly, like just not even thinking about it, you know. We just use them because somebody else, Joe that we know from the club, uses that phrase, and we just go ahead. All right, here's a question for the class. You ready?
Yes.
Ready.
What does representation actually mean to you, and does it always feel like empowerment?
That's another word that I had to trash and throw away, because even as a black male, I'm not going to generalize it, but as a black male, when I hear people say, "Oh, we don't have enough black representation," it's like, we're people first, right? And as soon as you separate black from everybody else, then I'm a other, and I'm different from everybody else. And when you realize that you're not different from me to a white woman or another, like, when you get connected to what it is to be a human being, all those things of representation goes out the window, because we're people. And the relatedness is most important. And maybe because, again, how we talk, I don't understand you if you're a white person, or if you're Hispanic. I don't understand you. Well, I don't understand Farron. So then how do we relate to one another and have a conversation around the relatedness? So the representation, I see it as another way society keeps it, as a separate barrier from connected to someone else. That's how I see representation. I don't use it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I will say one of them. one of the best compliments I've ever received was from a lady that I met in person who had only seen me online when I used to be on social media. And she came to me out of nowhere, didn't have no idea who this lady was. Right? She comes to me, she's like, "Are you Sang?" And I was like, "Oh, yes." Like,
Maybe.
it's not because maybe people don't come up to me like that. And so I sat with her and talked with her for like an hour, right? And before she left, she said to me, "You know, you're the same person online that you are in real life."
Mm.
And that was one of many reasons, but one of the higher reasons why I left Facebook and social media and things like that. Because when you get to see everybody, a lot of things, you get to see who they represent, so to speak, right? And then when I started like tracking it, like, is this who they are in real life? Is this they're this person online, but they're this person in real life? And there was a disconnect for me because I want people to know that I'm the same person here, I'm the same person here, I'm the same person here. I'm always going to probably have a crown on. I'm probably always going to be wearing pink. I'm probably always going to have certain things to say. I had a lady who came up to me at an event and said, "Are you saying because you have the sparkly glass?" Yes. Right? Because there are certain elements that now that I have that people know, but no one comes up and to say, "Oh, but I'm a human being," right?
Mm.
I want, you are accepted here. Whatever you want to talk about, you want to do this. I know so many stories, right? Because it's more about, again, you get to be who you are and other people receive you.
Mm.
And I always say, you want to know more? Ask. I had someone ask, and I have people who come to me and will ask me, I'm not trying to be offensive, and I'm asking for understanding. And that's really how it starts, is to ask for understanding and not come at them like hardcore or anything like that, but just, and I always say, my brother always does this. He's like, "Why?" Right? "Why are you like that?" Right? But instead of saying that, we can just be like, what is it about this that doesn't sit well with you? Right? There's just a way to ask those questions where we are coming from a place of curiosity and inquiry to
Right.
understand who other people are. So does representation feel like empowerment? I feel like if you are who you are and you're being that and you are that to the core, and and you sleep well at night knowing that you did everything you did today to be the perfect human being that you are for yourself, then that was a great day.
Yeah. For me, representation is an interesting topic because there's part of me that can't, because I'm always trying to say, okay, like, what must other people experience in order to reach this space that they're at, this opinion that they have, this whatever. And sometimes I get the chance to ask people those questions, and other times I just have to leave it as open ended. What must this person have to have been through? So I can understand if you are, if let's say that whatever you look like, I won't even bring a race into it, is in a minority, okay, and you feel like you don't see people that look like you. I can understand how representation might become something that is important to you, something that you would want to experience, you want to see it, all those things. But even thinking about, so when this question came up, I was thinking about how a lot of films now are being redone with actors of different colors, different races, all of that now. And for me, it's like, okay, I understand the representation piece, but are we also saying at the same time that we can't appreciate something for what it is because they don't look like us? Like, I worry about that message that we're saying to people. and our children, and having this conversation. And so, I just feel like, so it's sort of an open ended. I don't really have, I suppose, an opinion either way, other than to say I can understand it, but also that, it's, I worry about the narrative behind it and where that's coming from. So that's where I'm at with that.
And Jessica, you say the narrative. What I've learned in my walk with Christ is the spirit behind why we do things. If there's a reason why, but then there's a spirit behind why. Like, is it cultural? Is it race? Is it inherited conversations? Like, there's a reason why, but then the spirit behind why is like it's like another level of it, if I can say it to you that way. It's like the reason why they wrote the Constitution. There's a spirit behind why they wrote it, and why they put it even came together to put it together, right? So there's a spirit behind why racism is so important, and I believe it goes back to the spirit of the sense of belonging, because as human beings, we're social beings as human beings,
right?
And so we naturally want to be included. We naturally want, why babies cry to be picked up. Like, there's a natural piece of us that wants to be included. And when that fracture happens, it's like being on punishment. Go to your room. Like, that's the worst thing you can do to a child, is put them on punishment, right? Separate them from the family. Like, that's emotional. That's inside of us. Like, that's inside of us.
Yeah.
And so there's so many things that gets fractured behind it. By the time you're 20, 30 years old, it's like, man, I'm just gonna go be a loner, because I don't even want to feel none of the stuff that I've had to feel and go through before. As Sang was saying, we're trying to now have these conversations so you don't have to go through that, or at least when you go through it, you have some knowledge. Oh, my mom or dad said this about that, so now I can try that, or figure it out for myself, but at least not have no clue of like what's going on in life. And that's, to me, that's that spirit behind why we do things. And a lot of times, even as parents now, the spirit behind is from love. Like, we don't want you to go through the stuff that we went through, but we know that you may, but at least if you do, you can be prepared and know how to respond or feel about it first before you actually take that chance on that stuff. So yeah, that's my view on that.
Yeah. Ollie had a good quote, by the way, out here. He said, if we say we are X, Y, and Z, we are making violence because we separate and divide ourselves from the rest of humanity. Interesting to sit on that one. Yeah. It's I think one of the things that I have been challenged with is something really stuck out to me from my school days, and that's when we were discussing immigration and Ellis Island and the whole, we had they turned, I had the best middle school teachers on the planet. They turned our whole gym into Ellis Island, and we had to come in and like pick a name. My girl Jessica and we brought our Cabbage Patch Kids, because we were little mamas, and we brought our little babies through Ellis Island. We were having a whole experience. It was a fun time, and but that was really the moment for me that opened my curiosity to cultures, and even in that, like when we were talking about those things, and I remember that really being the first time that I really thought about, like, what does it mean to be white? Like, because we were in this experiment, right? We were talking about the Irish that came and the Italians that came, and then when I dug into my ancestry and all my Sicilian family that came here and how they were treated and all of these different things, like that was the first time that I was like, how are we taking all these different by comparison, small cultures and countries and places and putting them into one category. I did not understand that. And even as I think about, for example, you and I sang, we're talking about Asians, right? Like where are you talking about? Like what culture are you talking about? What countries are you talking about? When we talk about black, like okay, but like there's like it bothers me that we do this, you know, you're white, you're Asian, you're black, and we're just supposed to go off that. Like that's one thing that in this whole discussion, I still really struggle with it. So that's why when I hear people say, well, they're this, I'm like, what? Like, how do you know? I don't understand it. Where are you guys at with that sort of thing? Like the lack of compartmentalizing that we do between these labels of like white, Caucasian, you know, Asian, black, and leaving them as so broad.
Well, I made up my own language. I just say I'm Kablasian. So, you know, as I'm thinking about the question and how I was raised, right? My dad was Vietnamese. He married an American woman. It was very challenging in the house. So it was very challenging when I left the house because I was isolated. So as I became a grown up, there were things I just didn't know that happened in the outside world because of how isolated I was in my own. The community was our house, and to even go beyond understanding that there were different pockets or different cultures within a culture, right? Because there was no Vietnamese box. So now that you say that, I've never had to think about this. Sometimes there's a Vietnamese box and I get excited when there is, right? But it was, and you're right, because I've had people ask, well, what kind of Asian are you? Right. I think one time when I've even asked when I've shared with someone that my mom was white and this, and then someone says, well, what kind of white? And I was like, oh my gosh, I've never been asked that before. What do you mean? So I had to go to my grandmother, who here I am going to my grandma, what kind of white are we?
Laura class starts in 15 minutes.
There's my Alexa telling me what I have to do. So I go to my grandmother and ask her, and she's like, well, we're French and Irish and all this. And I'm like, okay, thanks. Right. But not even knowing that, because I don't even know anything about the French or the Irish. I barely know anything about Vietnamese people.
Yeah.
Which is horrible, but I don't, you know? So it was very like just being able to understand that as I got older, and then as I'm teaching my children became much more challenging. Because like Farron said, I didn't want them to go through the same things I did. So how do I teach to prevent that from happening? So I can show you, here are the different cultures. Here are the different ways. Here are the different pockets within pockets of communities. And come from that understanding to say, like, how did they get there? Meaning, what is their story?
Yeah. What is their story? What's your story, Farron?
Yeah, I'm in the same thing because as a black male, I hear, you know, my culture. Oh, I can't stand the white man. Well, which white man you talking about? Because they're different backgrounds, right? Even as us as blacks, you have blacks that are from Haiti, from Nigeria, French. Like we're different. But it goes back to, again, is having the space to ask a question, though. Like, ask a question. If you're interested, ask a question, find out. But just as you said, if we tell the truth and go back in time, a lot of our cultures was either coming from somewhere that they had to flee their own country to get away from famine, from being killed, like, and then they come to the United States and agree to be second-class citizens. Right? And then we're hyphenated. Irish Americans, Polish Americans, Jewish Americans, Italian Americans. Like, everybody was second class. But second class to who? the people who colonized this country, the Europeans, they're the only ones that's not hyphenated.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole conversation about history that, if you look at it from that perspective, it's all emotional, because did the people that come from Irish and Ireland and Polish and German, did they ever heal from the reasons why they even came here?
Mm-hmm.
The same way that blacks talk about coming here from slavery and being brought here by not, like, we need to heal from that conversation before we can move forward. So everybody's dealing with something from their culture that they don't like, or they're embarrassed about, that they're silently ashamed of, that, like, we're all dealing with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we come to the United States and we're supposed to just be okay with each other.
Right.
When there's so much emotional stuff going on in the background.
Mm-hmm.
At least, and you have the whites from the South that was doing the same thing that the blacks were doing, running moonshine and selling drugs and on welfare. But at least I ain't black. Like, it's like, really? Like, we all suffering, doing the same struggles.
Yeah.
In our culture.
Yes.
But for some reason, it seems like the black community, we feel like the conversation is that we're like on the bottom of the totem pole. We're trying to get into the white community stuff, that we don't realize we're already human beings. Like, we already belong. Like, we already belong to this. Find your place. Find your space. Create your own way. That's both my grandparents. I could inherit either one of those conversations. My dad's grandfather was prejudiced and racist, and he taught that to his children. Or my grandfather from my mom's side, from Alabama, who was more in the church, and say, we're gonna create our own way. I could go either way with these conversations today.
Right.
But I choose to understand that, you know what? I'm a prayer answered from my slavery folks that came from Nigeria. I'm a prayer answered. Mm-hmm. All the struggles that they went through, I don't just look at the upsets, look at the perseverance, the strength that they had to go through for my gene, for my DNA to be born today. Like, I'm a prayer answer, so now it's my turn.
Right.
So I don't have that mentality of, okay, I can't stand whites, I can't, like, I could though. I really could, because it was given to my dad.
Mm-hmm.
But when you realize that you are a spirit being first, and when you go through the process of those levels of who am I, it's like, man, we men, women, we got the same thoughts, the same worries, the same concerns. It's just that we deal with them, or we address them differently based off how our culture, how our houses taught us how to manage those stresses. But we're not different. And it cringes my skin to hear my black people complain about white people. Which one?
Right.
Because they're suffering. It's not my white neighbors. I'm not having no problem with my white neighbors, my Hispanic, I have no problem with any of my neighbors. Yeah. So who are you pointing to? It's usually an upset from the past. It's a past experience and a past frustration. And I got a friend of mine that calls him Mr. Charlie. Who the heck is Mr. Charlie? That's the white man. He calls the white man Mr. Charlie. I'm like, bro, I don't even want to talk. I can't even have a conversation with him. I'm like, bro, I'm like, all right, bro, I'm good. I get it. Mr. Charlie's on my neck. Okay, buddy, I got you. Like, it's that real though for people. It's that real.
It's and it's interesting as Laureen, I'm going to get to your comments in just a minute because they're amazing. But just give me just a second to walk through this here. There's a lot of people who say that we can't have we meaning any of us can't have a seat in the conversation about these things for whatever reason. For me, I've been told I shouldn't talk about race because I'm white and I wouldn't understand, I wouldn't get it, I wouldn't nothing. And then I've heard people who are black being called a certain name if they don't denounce the white man. And I'm just not even going to say the name, but but there's all of these sort of, again, with the narratives about like that we shouldn't be talking about it. And I think a lot of times that it's just got to come from a place of fear, like of and being thought that we are a certain way, and being worried too much what other people think. I loved what you said, Farron, about like, I am the answered prayer. Imagine if we all believed that about ourselves, that we are the answered prayers of our ancestors. None of this other crap would matter. Like, none of it would matter. Lorene said that is such an essential part of the conversation regarding race and healing. And part of the healing is being responsible for how we've all invested in the illusion of race as a reality. It couldn't have its impact without our agreement.
That's my girl, Lorene. There's a something I want to talk about when you talk about being the prayer, being the person that makes the change. Like, there's someone that has to break the cycle, right? I've always known I'm the person to break the cycle, just in me. I just know that. And the prime example was earlier this year. I've told my kids have known the stories about my dad and his racism tendencies and how they were not accepted in his eyes when they were born. And he's heard the stories about the disciplinary actions that I endured. And so this summer, my son's 28 now, and I said, my dad's coming over because it's my niece's graduation. I said, my dad's coming over. I have never stopped him from having a conversation with my dad. That's his experience. And he gets to have that. He said, hey, can I go? Is it okay? I'm going to talk to your dad. I'm okay, great. And what happened is we were driving home. He said it was really hard for him because he didn't see the man that I talked about.
Mm-hmm.
He sees this man that I don't even know, right? But he sees this man who's talking to him. And then he said, oh, well, your dad was talking to the dog, and then I like to talk to the dog, and then the dog came over, and then your dad came over, and I was like, is this where I got this? Is this why I like dogs? So it was very fascinating because I have a barrier with my dad doesn't mean my children have a barrier, even though my kids started out with a barrier with my dad.
Yeah.
Right. And so for my son to even say that to me, again, because I wanted to create an open space for my children to have the conversation, for him to say to me, I just don't see him the way you described him. And I said, I understand that. I don't see him that way either anymore.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean the impact of what happened doesn't sit with me.
Yeah.
Right.
And in that, I've also had to go to my own child, both of my children, to do that self-parent reflection and go back to them to apologize to them for some things that I may have said to them, that I may have done to them. And to have to own that is, but it was for me. I've sent my kids and said, I did this thing to my son. I have to talk to him about it before I share the story, but I did this thing to my son that I didn't realize that my dad had did it to me. I just did it in a digital way to my child.
Yes, ma'am.
And I cried for like a million hours.
Yeah.
And then I went to my son and I had a conversation with him. And I said, I want to have a conversation. I want to tell you this. Remember when I did this thing, and I've talked about this story about what my dad did to me. I apologize for doing that thing to you.
Man, beautiful.
And that's where we as parents, somebody has to change the conversation. Yes. I know I'm here to change a conversation, whether it's around race, whether it's about emotions, whether it's about whatever. I know that's my purpose.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people who are not willing to go to their children and say, you know what, my bad. Or yes. I did this because of this, the impact of what happened to me. I did this and I apologize because that is not really who I am or who I was, but I just didn't know who I was at the moment.
is beautiful because I did the same thing. I as a child went to my parents and asked my parents to forgive me for my behavior to them. And
Mm-hmm.
then I realized, like you said, that I treated my daughters the same way that my dad treated me.
Mm-hmm.
So then I had to go to my daughters and allow them to tell me how they felt about me so that they could be free from the behaviors of me as a father. I wasn't even a parent. I was a dad, a father, but I wasn't a parent. And so what you said saying is if we just did that,
Right.
if we just could do that as a
Mm-hmm.
child to the parent or the parent to the child, all
Mm-hmm.
this racist, all this stuff would literally just start to disappear because
Mm-hmm.
the child's heart will be returned back to their parent.
Right.
The parent's heart will be returned back to that child. Then the political issues would change, the gangs, the all this other stuff would really start to diminish because ultimately we want to belong somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't feel like I belong to my family, then I'm turning to my peers for love and acceptance. And we all know it's trial and error. And
Mm-hmm.
when that relationship is broken, I'm gonna go to a gang. I'm gonna go to the military. I'm gonna go somewhere to a football team to be accepted, to have that sense of belonging and that brotherhood or whatever that is. But we all know that people join gangs and do crime and they still know they're doing wrong. But hey, at least I'm here. At least
I'm in.
somebody
I'm
cares.
accepting into the group. Right.
I'm accepted to the. And so, what if the political issues that we deal with today has the same ingredients?
Mm-hmm.
Restoring our relationships with our children and our parents. We disappoint our children. We do, and to, as you said, to be able to take responsibility for that. That's how we restore our homes. That's how we
Yeah.
restore our community. That's how we restore society. That's how we restore our nation. When we start to heal the relationship between you and your children first.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody's got to be the bigger person. And I'm grateful that God showed me that you as a son can go to your parents and ask them to forgive you. I was like, me first? Yes, you first.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're breaking the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are. So what you said is I believe that's the key to this whole conversation about race is restoring our families, and all this other stuff will diminish.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I feel like we could
All
go
right.
on for days and hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Mm.
All right. So we're gonna start to wind down here. But one of the things that I think when we start having these conversations about race is, and it's not even just race. I've seen so many conversations when we start talking about our upbringing and our ancestors and all these things, it starts to get into a little bit of an era of competition over who had it harder. And so, how do we stop competing for who's had it harder and start collaborating on healing? Thoughts
Mm.
and opinions.
Oh, such a great question. Farron, I'm gonna let you go first.
So you know what's wild is I'm a sickle cell trait carrier, and
Mm-hmm.
I discovered that in my age, and I find this community of sickle cell trait, sickle cell disease, anemia, and
Mm-hmm.
this is one of the conversations that's a battle. My disease is worse than theirs, and you got the trait, so you don't know how I feel with the pain and this and this and this. Like, are you serious? Like, we
Mm-hmm.
all have inherited genes, but yet my pain is my pain. It's not compared to. I'm not comparing my pain to your pain.
Right.
So it's so many layers to that question. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, again, it goes back to the individual person. What I did was I acknowledged that I don't have sickle cell anemia or disease, but I could relate to you in your experience. So let's talk about the experience of it. So when I
Right.
put it from the experience of it, they were like, "Oh shoot, oh, you don't want to die in the hospital? I don't want to die at home because I have to beg my VA doctor to go to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
You go to the hospital and don't want to die in the hospital because you want to be treated properly." It's the same experience whether you're at the hospital or at home. I don't want to die at home. So when I started sharing from that perspective, that perception, oh, he's cool. he fits in. Like there's no. I'm not. It's not competition. We're all trying to help bring awareness to these talks. So I believe it's going to be again at the root of the person to realize that, you know what, I'm just going to be okay. And lastly, give up my opinion. I've learned the last 6 years that I have to give up my opinion about Farron first, and then give up my opinion about other people. And that's been my practice. So to me, if you can give up your opinion, then there's no competition. It's just relatedness.
Give up your opinion. That's tip number 1. You got to.
I started changing the narrative and how I share my story. Because what would happen is I would share my story about the way I was disciplined. And then someone would come along and say, well, I don't care. I had it this way. Right. And then it became like, I'm not trying to compete with you.
Yeah.
We were both traumatized by this type of discipline, you know? And so for me, it's changing the conversation, having that willingness to say, if something comes up where someone all of a sudden starts comparing, like I personally don't like even the comparison of childbirth. Okay. People will say it does make me uncomfortable sometimes when I'm sitting in a room with women and they're talking about their pregnancies and how horrible they were and this and that and all this stuff. And then I'm not saying anything because I liked being pregnant. I enjoyed it. I had pleasurable experiences being pregnant. I had pleasurable births. Right. But if I say, they're going to think I'm better than them. And that's not even what I'm trying to say. Right. Yep. And so then it becomes, I just say, oh, it was good, you know, or I can say that and go, or I can even have a conversation to say, I understand I hate that for you. And it was probably really painful, but I empathize with you because I do know what childbirth is like. I can't imagine some of the things that people have gone through. And so being in that space to know I have had things. So me personally, change the narrative, change your own narrative, change what you share, because otherwise we're growing up in a society where it's competition. Who's going to be the line leader? Who's going to be this? Who's going to be the person who gets all A's? You know, just things like that. We're always in this competition, and that has carried on into our everyday lives like this. So my invitation / tip is to change the conversation you're having. Because it starts with you. You have to be able to change the conversation before the others around you will change the conversation.
Yeah. Love that. I think my invitation would be to stay curious.
Yes.
And ask questions and ask for the stories. I can remember as a child, 2 people that I'm not going to say their race. I'm just going to say it was 2 people that I was immensely jealous of. One used to, her mom used to sit on the porch and braid her hair like every other day, like be out on the porch. And I remember feeling so jealous. I want the cool things in my hair. I wish my mom would sit and braid my hair for that long, you know, like, and it was this relationship that she had with, you know, with her mom that I wanted it so bad. And then I had another friend who, also different than me, whose parents were very affluent, and they had a pool, and I wanted a pool, and I wanted to, you know, I wanted to have a pool party, and I wanted to do all these things, and I was so jealous of them, and the lives that they had, and according to everybody else looking in, they should have had worse lives than me, according to what the narrative is. And I just remember feeling like I didn't consider anything else other than they had lives that I wish that I had, and I didn't consider anything else for it. So sometimes, we get into these spaces of conversation or of competition. We're not asking enough questions. We're not asking enough questions. We're not curious about the real stories and things behind it. We're just
Recording
worried
in
about
progress. Who else is coming? You're around
telling
there
our
too.
story. Sorry, I don't know what the feedback was, but either way, we would stay curious, tell stories, ask questions. So that would be my thing. And don't let people tell you like I've been told that you're not allowed to have a seat at the table and that's why we do this show in particular.
Yeah, I agree.
We're just gonna sit in it a minute. We're just gonna sit in it a minute. Yeah, there's so many other pieces to this, and I'm hoping that we can continue having conversations like this in the new year. I've lists and lists and lists and lists of questions over here that we could answer, but I think this was a great start to the conversation, and examining our own self and our own roles and things. I want to give a huge thank you to Ali out in the audience, Laureen out in the audience tonight, Brittany out in the audience tonight, and everybody else. There's been a ton of people here that are awfully quiet out there this evening. And I don't blame you. I don't blame you, because it's a, it goes back to it's a hard conversation to have, and to examine your own thoughts and things that you have going on. But I want to thank you all for being here. Even if you didn't say anything, you took it in and you hung with us, and we appreciate you. I also want to give a big thank you for making us 3D tonight. Sang D,
right.
everybody.
Welcome, my people. Thank you for having me. It's been so much fun.
I love it. And of
so
course,
many layers.
Yes. Welcome back. Welcome back anytime, Sang. Final thoughts, Farron.
Again, my takeaway is the willingness to give up your opinion and to see and to tell the truth to yourself first, right? That's my message that God has given me to deliver. Was I had to do the work around Farron's opinion about my parents, about how I grew up, about how I look in the mirror and view myself, how I viewed my past, all that stuff I had opinions about, and it's not who I am today at 55. So now I gotta go unravel all those opinions that I have, memories and body sensations and thoughts. Like, mental health is so important, cognitive behavior, grief counseling, all those classes are important. Learn how to be used by principles outside of yourself, because your own mind's gonna make you right all the time. You're always gonna be right. And so giving up my opinion has been the biggest thing that has given me my freedom in life. And so to me, that's access to one way to free yourself from this whole society and what people say about other people, is give up your opinion and ask more questions.
I think the great and wonderful in Vogue saying, "Free your mind,
Free your
the
mind,
rest
and
will
the rest
follow."
will follow.
That's right.
There it is. Any final thoughts from you tonight, Sang?
Oh, my only is take accountability for self. Is, piggybacking off of what Farron said, like, when you know and do that deep work into yourself and know why do you believe the certain things you do? Why do you even do some of the things you do? Why do you have certain thoughts that you have? Where did they come from? Were they taught to you? Were they embedded in you? Did you have to write them 100 times on the chalkboard? Like, where did they come from? And then figure out how that has impacted you, and just own that and understand how you have in turn impacted others, perhaps by that same belief. And you have the power to change your direction, because you can only control you.
Love it. Love it. And it just speaks right to my final word, which is just stay curious. I mean, it just because I've always sort of been that kind of person that I like to know the why. I like to know the story. I like to figure it out.
Mhm.
And I don't have to understand it. I think if we go to say, okay, we're just gonna listen, we don't necessarily have to get it. We're not in somebody else's shoes, but we could listen, we could be loving anyway when they say that we shouldn't.
Mhm.
We can think for ourselves. It's a magical thing we got up here in our in our heads. And so that's what we're leaving with everybody this evening, and we appreciate you all being a part of this conversation. Farron and I are going to be back in a couple weeks time on November 11th, which happens to be Veterans Day here in the US, and our topic is going to be war and peace. War and peace, Farron. Any how are you feeling about that one?
No, I feel good about that one because I could tell you, as a soldier, I was trained to identify another human being as an other and then kill terrorists.
Mm,
So that is something that it even goes back to even the race conversation that
yeah.
we label. I've been trained since 19 years old to label another human being as a terrorist and then train to kill terrorists. And I can switch that on right now if I needed to.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I do have one quick little snippet,
Yeah.
Jessica. So there was the time I was in the grocery store, I was in college, and this gentleman comes up to me and asks me, "Are you Vietnamese?" Which is very rare when people do that. And then I said yes, and he got on his knees. This goes into your story. Get on his knees and starts apologizing to me
Mm.
for what Americans did to my people.
Mhm.
Mm,
And at the time, I didn't have a lot of knowledge behind it, but to have a gentleman do that, and I don't even know why, was super huge and has always left a lasting impact where I tell that story too.
Mhm.
So there was peace in that situation for me because he saw me as a human being. He didn't see me as
mm.
a Vietnamese person. He didn't see me as that, but he also had compassion and empathy for what happened.
And I'm curious, how did you see him in that moment?
Mm.
I actually touched his shoulder. I remember we were in the
Mm.
grocery store. My son was born, and I touched his shoulder and I said, "Thank you very much." And then he asked if he could give me a hug, and he
Mm.
cried when I gave him a hug.
Mm,
And that's where we start. Like, I had no idea because I didn't stay in the books that way, and I didn't know because it wasn't taught to me. But this gentleman comes up to me and says that, and it was very peaceful. He needed to be at peace
Mhm.
about something, and he got that from me
yeah.
as I, when I did what I did, because it was so moving for me.
I have a military show, and I interview since 2013, and my brothers and sisters who come home from those combats, when they
Mhm.
get back to their own home and they're hugged up with their own children, that's where the mind goes back to, that was not a terrorist, that was a person. I killed someone's father, uncle, brother, cousin, and then now as a veteran, I have to live with that. I can't even imagine to have to then come home and you have your child here and then you reflecting on where you just came from.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
that's a different life.
It goes back to what I was saying on last week's show about how if we take all of these micro labels out that we want to put on us and everybody else because we want to belong so bad, and we
Mhm.
go back to that original, the one label that ties all of us together, which is humanity. People don't want to do that. The micro labels are easier because then you're not comparing yourself to people that you could have killed in combat, to people that you deem as unworthy or unlovable. You don't have to share that label with him if you adopt all these other little labels.
Right.
But when we go back to that human, that's when it's like, oh, maybe I should watch how I treat people. Perhaps just a thought.
Perhaps. Or
Mhm.
how I treat myself.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So thank you for sharing that story, by the way, Sang.
Yes,
And I'm excited about our
nice.
conversation. November 11th, we're talking about War and Peace. Farron is a veteran. I am a veteran's daughter, and so we're gonna be. It's gonna be good. I think. Looking forward to War and Peace. November
That's it.
11th at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m.
On the
Pacific.
west side.
I'm just me in the middle, in the heart of the middle, merging both of you.
There it is. Thank you guys so much, wherever you are in the world, for joining us this evening. We appreciate you being a part of this conversation. I'm Jessica Dugas. This is our special guest, Sang D, and this is my co-host, Farron D. And we're going to be back next time for more Beyond 2D, and we'll see you later. Bye, everybody.
Peace.
Bye.